Hi world, this is E.H. Lau, and today I'd like to present to you a story that I wrote. Well, just a small part of it. This is a story about Anna. When she was a little girl, her parents were killed by a vampire. Soon afterwards, she was taken in by a knight named Isabel. For 5 years, Isabel taught Anna everything that she could about being a knight, and she helped cultivate Anna from being a vengeance-driven girl into a knight who would stand for justice. This part of the story starts soon after Anna's knighting. Having finally become a knight, Lady Anna is given her first mission. She and Lady Isabel are to go to a village on the outskirts of the kingdom, investigate why people have been disappearing from the village over the past several months, and to put a stop to it. Anna's narration begins as the two knights arrive at the village.
As we entered the village on our horses, the villagers happily welcomed us. At that moment, I was proud to be a knight. An old man walked up to us. "Welcome to our village, my ladies," he said, giving us a bow. "Thank you, sir," Isabel replied. Isabel and I dismounted. "My name is Isabel," my mentor said, introducing herself. Then she gestured to me, "And this is Lady Anna. Are you the village elder?" "Yes," the old man replied. "My name is Gabriel." "Pleasure to meet you, Gabriel," Isabel said, shaking his hand. "I as well," I said, also shaking Gabriel's hand. "I wish I could say the same, but our circumstances are dire," Gabriel replied sadly. "Of course, I'm sorry," Isabel nodded apologetically. Turning to the crowd, Isabel declared, "We swear that we will put an end to this, whatever this is." The crowd cheered. Gabriel smiled. "You have our thanks." Gabriel gestured to a young man who stepped forward. "Isaac here is my right-hand man. He will show you to your accommodations and will help you with your every need." "Thank you, village elder," Isabel said. Gabriel nodded. "I will leave you to it then. Please, save our village from this menace." Isabel placed her hand on her heart. "You have our word." Gabriel gave us a nod and then started to walk away. The crowd dispersed, and we were left with our horses and Isaac. After Isaac had shown us to our accommodations, and we had taken our horses to the stables, we began to explore the town with Isaac as our guide. "How many of the villagers have disappeared so far?" I asked. 6, Isaac replied grimly. "One of them was my sister, Margaret." Our conversations paused following this revelation. "I am sorry, Isaac," Isabel said. "It's all right. I just needed you to know that," Isaac replied. "Please, find her." "We will," I said. "Could you show us where each of the victims were last seen?" Isabel said. "Yes, of course," Isaac replied. Throughout the day, Isaac took us to 6 different locations where the victims were last seen or were known to be heading to. The locations all had one thing in common. They were on the outskirts of town. This meant that very little people would be at those locations, leaving no one to witness the actual disappearances. Another common point was the time. They had all disappeared after nightfall. It was the late afternoon when we had finished investigating the 6th location with Isaac. As we prepared to head back to our accommodations to ponder over what we had found, a boy ran up to Isaac. "Isaac!" the boy called out as he ran over to us. Isaac knelt down as the boy approached. "What is it, Timothy?" "They found Margaret." It was a shriveled corpse. That's all that was left of Margaret, just a shriveled corpse left in the dark forest of the night. Isaac dropped down to his knees and cradled the body that was his sister with tears in his eyes. Staring at them under the torchlights, I suddenly remembered my mother, lying on the ground with blood spilling out of her neck, and my father becoming a shriveled corpse. Turning away, I clutched my sword angrily. Suddenly, I felt Isabel's hand on my shoulder. Her voice called out to me, "Anna." Feeling Isabel's hand on my shoulder and hearing her voice through my cloud of anger, I began to calm down. I touched Isabel's hand with my own. "Sorry. I know. Thank you." We turned back to the corpse. "It's a vampire," Isabel said. I nodded. Turning to one of the villagers who found the body, Isabel asked, "So you just found the body here?" "Yes," the villager replied. "We usually come to this part of the forest to pick the mushrooms that grow here." "Do you come here every day?" Isabel continued. "Yes," the villager replied. "So the body wasn't here yesterday?" Isabel asked, puzzled. "It just showed up today?" "Yes, I'm sure of it." "That doesn't make sense," Isabel said to me. "Why would—" "Help!" a girl's voice from the edge of the forest interrupted us. "What's wrong?" I asked the girl that was running to us. She had tears running down her frightened face. The girl ran into my arms. "There's a monster! It's killing everyone in the village!" I looked at Isabel, and she looked back at me. Suddenly, it clicked. "Damn it!" I yelled. "This is a distraction!" I got up and led the girl into the arms of another villager. "Take care of her," I said. Isabel and I rushed back to the village. "I really wish we didn't leave our helmets back at the inn," I said to Isabel as we approached the village. "At least we still have our armor and swords," Isabel replied. As we reached the village, we heard the panicked screams of the villagers. We followed the screams. And there it was, at the center of all the screams, the vampire who killed my parents, holding the shriveled corpse of another villager. "You!" I yelled, pulling out my sword. The vampire turned. He twisted his face into that evil smirk that I could never forget. "I was hoping that I would have more time to feast," the vampire sneered. "But I guess I will have all the time in the world after I dispose of the two of you." The vampire threw his latest victim aside as if he was throwing out leftovers from a meal. Isabel drew her sword and started to say, "Anna, I'll draw it to—" "I'll kill you!" I yelled at the vampire as I charged. Screaming a battle cry, I swung my sword at the vampire. He blocked it with his claws. I continued pulling, hoping that my sword would cut into his claws. The vampire smirked and kicked me in the abdomen. I flew back and crashed into the ground, losing my sword in the vampire's grip. The vampire tossed my sword aside and leapt at me. "Argh!" I yelled as he landed on top of me. "Let's see how you taste," the vampire sneered. Suddenly, the vampire jumped off me to dodge Isabel's sword. "Anna, what's wrong?" Isabel yelled while standing between me and the vampire. He's the one who killed my family," I yelled. "Really?" the vampire asked. Mockingly, he said, "I'm sorry. I've fed on so many humans before, I can't remember all of them." I got up and angrily yelled, "You!" Isabel interrupted me. "Calm yourself." "But..." "Get your sword," Isabel yelled at me. "We have to kill him, for his victims, for the kingdom, for the people." Hearing that brought me back to my senses. Yes, you're right, Isabel," I said. "I'll hold him off," Isabel said. "Retrieve your weapon while I do that." "Yes, ma'am." Isabel chuckled a little. "I thought you grew out of that." I chuckled a little as well. Apparently not. "Are you two finished?" the vampire said. "If you two would like to continue talking, I can go feed." Isabel charged at the vampire. I ran for my sword. I picked up my sword off the ground and turned around in time to see the vampire knocking Isabel through the wall of a house. Isabel yelled as she crashed through the wall and into the house. The vampire leapt in after her. I ran after them. "Let's get this off of you," I heard the vampire yell. The breastplate from Isabel's armor flew out the window of the house. I reached the house. The vampire was on top of Isabel, his knees pinning down her arms. His head was leaning towards her neck, fangs outstretched. "Get off her!" I yelled. I jumped through the hole and into the house, thrusting my sword at the vampire as I did so. The vampire jumped away. "Thank you, Anna," Isabel said as she picked up her sword and got up. The remaining backplate of her torso armor fell off. The vampire punched the wall that was behind him, shattering it. The house began to shake. The vampire smirked as he walked through the hole that he had made. "Back the way we came from!" Isabel yelled. We ran and jumped through the hole as the house crumbled. "You two are more trouble than I thought you'd be," the vampire said, walking towards us, "but still, just mere humans." The vampire dashed at us, claws outstretched. He swiped his claws at us. Isabel and I barely managed to raise our swords in time to block his swipes. Isabel swung her sword at the vampire's head as I thrust mine at his torso. The vampire ducked under Isabel's sword and blocked mine. Twisting my sword, the vampire managed to wring it from my grip and toss it aside. The vampire then lunged at me. Headbutting me in the chest, the vampire sent me flying. I crashed into the ground. Following up, the vampire charged at me, leaving Isabel behind. "Anna!" Isabel yelled. She threw her sword at me. I caught it and managed to block the vampire's incoming claw swipes. As he pushed against my sword with his claws, the vampire leaned in. Smirking, he said, "Watch this." Suddenly, the vampire got off me and dashed away. I watched as he dashed towards Isabel, who was heading towards the sword that I had dropped, her back to the vampire. "Isabel!" I yelled, trying to warn her. "Behind you!" Isabel picked up my sword and turned around, swinging my sword as she did so. But it was too late. The vampire ducked below the sword and stabbed his claws through Isabel's gambeson and into her chest. I stared, stunned, as Isabel dropped to her knees with the vampire's claws inside of her. Suddenly, Isabel grabbed the vampire's arm. She stabbed my sword into the vampire's foot and into the ground. The vampire screamed. "Anna, now!" Isabel yelled. I charged towards the vampire. Let go of me, woman!" the vampire yelled, struggling to pull his arm out of Isabel. Isabel struggled to keep her hold on the vampire, but the vampire managed to wrestle free from her weakened grip. The vampire slapped Isabel aside. but my sword was still anchoring his foot to the ground. As the vampire struggled to pull the sword out, I approached. I screamed a battle cry, full of fury and pain as I swung Isabel's sword. The sword cleaved through the vampire's neck and decapitated him. The vampire's head fell to the ground. A moment later, the vampire's body went limp and fell as well. It was over. The vampire was dead. Anna, Isabel's pained voice called out to me. Dropping the sword, I rushed to Isabel. Isabel! I tried to help her up. Isabel screamed in pain. Wait here! I'll get help! I started to gently put her down. No, Isabel said. It's too late. No! It can't be! I yelled. Please, Isabel begged me. Just let me lie down here and stay with me. But, please? Silently, I nodded. I knelt down and held her in my arms. I'm so sorry, I said. If only... Isabel chuckled sadly. Don't be silly, Anna. It's not your fault. Isabel struggled to lift up her hand. Let me hold your hand one more time. I grabbed her hand as if I could hold on to her life. Holding my hand, she managed to say, Anna, the world is full of corruption and evil, and we, knights, exist to fight against it. We are here to stand for justice. Yes, of course, I said. I managed to smile through the overwhelming sadness. That was the first lesson you ever taught me. Isabel smiled. It was a pained smile. I'm glad you remember. Isabel's breathing grew heavier as the pain was becoming worse. Isabel started. I held her hand tighter. I am proud, Isabel said, to have been your mentor, your friend, and your sister. I am proud to have watched you grow into a fine knight. I hope that you never lose that sense of justice that has grown inside of you. Isabel smiled one more time. Then she faded. I watched as Isabel, my mentor, my friend, and my sister, died in my arms with a smile on her face. I cradled her body in my arms, and tears started to stream down my face.
And that was it for this part of the story. That was from The Vampire's Gift, which is part 1 of the Sun Aegis. You can currently get part 1 for free on most major platforms, and parts 2 to 5 are available for $1 USD each, though there's a special sale on Smashwords right now where you can get all 5 parts for free. Series information and links to where you can get the rest of the story can be found on my website, which you can find a link to in the video description below. The excerpt was read by Chelsea Simpson. The covers and series logo were created by tom.st.chan, and the illustrations for this video were created by Katuki Niwa. You can find links to their portfolios in the video description below. Thank you for listening to this reading from the Sun Aegis. I hope that you enjoyed it and that you'll try out the rest of the series. And that's it for the first video of this channel. Let me know what you thought about it in the comments below. Until next time, this is E.H. Lau, signing off.